Hello everyone, welcome to CNA, the daily newspaper analysis. So today we are back with the following list of topics to discuss. But before starting, I just want to convey you all a message that if you want to join our WhatsApp group, the link is directly given in the comment section below. Also do join our WhatsApp group as well as Telegram channel for the latest offers as well as products that can be found in our institute. Okay, so now let's start with today's analysis. The first topic says about the DNA test. So we can see about that recently there has been a question of going on about the examination of having a DNA test. Okay, because we could see there are more and more number of complainants that are seeking the DNA test, and such request has increased by around 20% each year. So a DNA analysis, also called DNA typing or DNA profiling, examines DNA found in physical evidence such as blood, hair, semen, and determines whether it can be matched to DNA taken from specific individuals or not. So this DNA analysis has become a common form of evidence in criminal trials today. Even if I say about the NABL, that is the National Accreditation Board for Testing and Calibration Laboratories, it says that it tests around 300 to 400 samples each month on private request and on the court mandates. So today we could see that Supreme Court directly goes on for a hearing where demand grows but DNA test directly falls under a gray area. So now Supreme Court has said that forcing a person for DNA test violated personal liberty, which is basically a fundamental right. तो यहाँ पे सुप्रीम कोर्ट के द्वारा बहुत सारे केसेस में ये बताया गया है कि कंपेलिंग एन अनविलिंग पर्सन टू अंडरगो अ डीएनए टेस्ट is directly a violation to the personal liberty as well as the right to privacy. सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट केस ऑफ 2010 भवानी प्रसाद जीना इन केसेस में भी बोला था कि जजेस कैन नॉट ऑर्डर जेनेटिक टेस्ट एज अ रोविंग इंक्वायरी. ये रोविंग इंक्वायरी क्या होता है? रोविंग इंक्वायरी मीन्स asking questions which are not at all connected with the subject matter. तो उसको हम लोग रोविंग इंक्वायरी बोलते हैं. और एक जजमेंट आया था रिसेंटली 2021 में. ये जजमेंट था अशोक कुमार जजमेंट. प्लीज मैं जब ये केसेस के बाद बोलता हूं तो प्लीज रिमेंबर द नंबर ऑफ केसेस एज वेल एज द important judgments that were given by the Supreme Court. This could be very much helpful for you in framing your respective answers. तो अशोक कुमार केस में 2021 में क्या बोला गया था सुप्रीम कोर्ट के द्वारा कि जजेस बिफोर ऑर्डरिंग अ जेनेटिक टेस्ट शुड एग्जामिन द प्रोपोर्शनलिटी ऑफ द लेजिटिमेट एम्स बीइंग परस्यूड और नॉट. सो आज ये जो डीएनए टेस्ट है, दे आर यूज्ड फॉर नैपिंग क्रिमिनल्स, दे आर यूज्ड फॉर वेरियस नंबर ऑफ डीएनए प्रोफाइल्स which are taken from the place of crime and can be matched with the samples of the criminals arrested. So also identifying accident victims, missing people, or identifying disaster victims. Here DNA is a very important category. Also if I see about to identify the parents is also possible with the use of the DNA profiling. लेकिन आज यहाँ पे criticism क्यों हो रहा है? Because of the privacy issue getting violated. Because DNA profiling is being criticized as a technique that breaches an individual's privacy. So today we know about that this DNA, which is the hereditary complex molecule present in humans and almost all organisms, they could be extracted from any part, be it saliva, be it hair, be it blood samples, and even some of the muscles or tissue of a person, or even the nail scrapings जो हम लोग अपना नाखून काटते हैं. So even from this नाखून or even from this nails we could directly extract the DNA. Okay, तो ये जो process है, this is very important process to identify any form of unidentified person. ठीक है, तो ये और एक चीज याद रखना कि ये जो DNA जो चीज है which is directly extracted, इसको पहले शुरू किया था in 1953 and it was first identified by James Watson and Francis Crick. तो ये दोनों नाम बहुत ज्यादा याद रखना, कभी पूछ सकता है. ठीक है, so this is about the DNA test which can be seen about the growing concern of the Supreme Court in this category violating the right to privacy. Next पे आते हैं, Russia suspend grain exports. So today we know that citing attacks against ships, Russia moves to suspend the grain exports. So today, Russia has moved to suspend the implementation of a UN brokered grain export deal, and the Russian Defense Ministry cited that an alleged recent Ukrainian drone attack against Russia's Black Sea Fleet ships moved off the coast of occupied Crimea as the reason of the move. So the Russian declaration came one day after UN Chief Antonio Guterres urged Russia and Ukraine to renew the grain export deal. ओके जो कि हम लोग नवंबर 19 ये एक्सपायर होने वाला है, ठीक है, ये शेड्यूल टू एक्सपायर है ऑन नवंबर 19 2022। तो इससे पहले अंटोनियो गुतेरेस के द्वारा यहाँ पे रशिया और यूक्रेन को बोला कि आप लोग रिन्यू कीजिए, लेकिन रशिया कंसर्निंग सम ऑफ द अटैक्स डन विद देयर रिस्पेक्टिव नेवल शिप्स, तो यहाँ पे और इवन विद देयर रिस्पेक्टिव फ्लीट्स व्हिच इज बेसिकली स्टेशन इन ब्लैक सी नियर क्राइमिया, तो यहाँ पे इसीलिए ये लोग बोल रहे हैं कि नो वी विल नॉट रिन्यू सच नंबर ऑफ विद यूक्रेन। So therefore, Guterres also even urged some of the other countries, mainly in the West, to expedite the removal of obstacles blocking the Russian grain and the fertilizer exports. तो ये जो डील है, ये डील के बारे में हम लोग थोड़ा जानना चाहिए, बिकॉज ये हम लोग का डील हुआ था अराउंड जुलाई 2022. So Ukraine and Russia signed an UN-backed deal to allow the export of the millions of tons of grains from blockaded Black Sea ports. Okay, so deal was initially agreed for around 120 days. So यहाँ पे no Russian ships would escort vessels and that there would be no Russian representative present at Ukrainian ports. So what is the significance of this deal? We know that Ukraine is one of the world's largest exporter of wheat, corn and sunflower oil. But the recent conflict with Russia and naval blockade of its port halted the shipments. So the prices of some of the vital commodities like wheat and barley soared due to this conflict. And the UN-backed grain deal, which has seen more than 9 million tons of grain exported from Ukraine, potentially averted the threats of catastrophic global food crisis and brought down this global food crisis. So the UN plan also allowed Russia to export its grain and fertilizers. Okay, so अगर मैं wholly बोलूं इस पूरा जो ये न्यूज का जो क्रक्स है, so रशिया यहाँ पे सस्पेंड किया है about participation, about renewing this agreement between Ukraine and Russia, and the suspension will directly cut every Ukrainian grain export from its crucial Black Sea ports, with a real risk of vast population of several countries facing hunger and rise of the food prices. ठीक है, तो ये था about this respective deal. So next पे आते हैं, China upgrades road opposite to the eastern Ladakh. So we know today about the condition of China developing infrastructures along the LAC, line of actual control, and the latest satellite images reveal that China is even building a second bridge over even the Pangsong Lake. Okay, and the bridge can carry tanks and can facilitate faster movement of the military forces between the north and the south banks of the lake. So today we could see that for improving air assets, China is directly going ahead with such number of building of infrastructures. Also, if I see for enhancing the logistics supply, that China is directly going on between making various number of highways. Okay, and this percentage has increased right from around, मैं अगर 2015 से 2020 के बारे में भी बोलूं तो it saw an increase of around 51% of the construction of roads as well as infrastructures. Okay, also for ramping up of forward movement, we could see China constructed at least 8 key roads towards the LAC. Okay, and this is basically towards the eastern side of Ladakh. ये वाला side में जो अक्सर चीन वाला portion है, इस area में बहुत ज्यादा ये लोग construction कर रहे हैं, ठीक है। So यहाँ पे China का intention क्या है? China's infrastructures building is aimed at reducing India's advantage in the employment of air power during a conflict along the LAC. And also it is to overcome their shortfalls, neutralizing India's air power edge over Tibet and increase the PLS combat capability for war fighting along the LAC. तो यहाँ पे इंडिया के अगेंस्ट में यहाँ पे बहुत ज्यादा हम लोग का challenges आ गया है. Okay, because we have seen that it would increase the PLS combat capability. Also, with the improved infrastructures in this region, China could quickly mobilize its troops and also would be able to neutralize India's air power edge over the Tibet. So today, even India is also going for the response, because the Indian army has redeployed the significant forces from the Pakistan border to the northern front. And also a major push has been given to the infrastructure development, improving surveillance and the construction of the roads. So after 2020 event, the standoff which happened in eastern Ladakh, इसी area में हुआ था standoff, the government has sanctioned the construction of 32 main roads along the LAC. Okay, so ये हम लोग को करना चाहिए so as to make a strong deterrence over here, and also we have to go for a tactical thinking of this area. Also, the superior role of the IAF is also very important. Also, India needs to have a developed, dominant naval position in the Indian Ocean. Okay. Also, if you see about capabilities must be deployed in all domains to impose cost beyond the immediate area conflict of through long-range missiles, as well as cyber warfare, as well as space weapons, etc. तो हम सब जगह से हम लोग को एक superior role निभाना पड़ेगा so that we could build deterrence with the aggression that is faced by India in these locations of this LAC. ठीक है, तो ये था यहाँ पे about the important news. Okay, next पे आते हैं, काला नमक rice. Okay, so if I see about the rice that is known as the काला नमक rice is now small strong. Okay, यहाँ पे टेस्ट किया गया है काला नमक राइस को, ठीक है, in this Indian Agricultural Research Institute. Okay, so now we can see that this IARI, okay, has successfully developed 2 dwarf varieties of this kala namak rice. 2 dwarf varieties यहाँ पे ये लोग ने निकाल दिए गए, ठीक है. So now this kala namak, इसका अगर बैकग्राउंड में थोड़ा जाऊं तो it is what? It is a traditional variety of paddy with black husk and strong fragrance, which is considered a gift from Lord Buddha to the people of Sravasti when he visited the region after enlightenment. Okay, so now it has got some of the high cell contents and overshadows basmati due to its agronomic potential. So now if you see that it is grown in some of the 11 districts in the Terai region of the northern UP, okay, and also in the region of Nepal. So traditional variety of rice has been prone to lodging, which resulted in low yield and poor quality. तो ये lodging क्या होता है? See, lodging is a condition in which the top of the plant becomes heavy because of the grain formation and the stem becomes weak and the plant falls on the ground. So to overcome the problem of this heaviness of lodging, the IARI has successfully developed 2 dwarf varieties of kala namak rice. तो अगर मान लो एक प्लांट है बहुत ये एकदम स्टीम सा, तो यहाँ पे अगर हैवी एक चीज डाल दो, अगर प्लांट का कंडीशन इतना हैवी हो जाए तो ऑब्वियसली द स्टेम डायरेक्टली ब्रेक्स बिकॉज ऑफ दिस हैवीनेस इन द टॉप. तो इसको बोलते हैं लॉजिंग. तो आज अगर ये लंबा ना होके हम लोग ड्वार्फ थोड़ा बना ले और यहाँ पे हो जाए ऐसे, then obviously we can eliminate the risks of lodging. तो यहाँ पे IARI के द्वारा यही यहाँ पे न्यू varieties किया गया है. So now the traditional kala namak rice is also protected, that is it is also protected under the GI tag, geographical indication tag. ठीक है. So अभी ये जो 2 dwarf varieties of kala namak rice आया है, इसको नाम दिया गया है पूसा नरेंद्र काला नमक, और that is पूसा नरेंद्र काला नमक 1638. ओके, और यहाँ पे देख सकते हो they have been named पूसा नरेंद्र काला नमक 1638 and पूसा नरेंद्र काला नमक 1650. Okay, and now this yield of the new varieties is double that of the traditional variety, and the length of the old variety plant is around 140 centimeters. तो आज ये कितना घट के हो गया है? It is around 95 to 100 centimeters. तो पहले ये कितना था? 140 centimeters. Okay, so now we have to think about the kala namak rice as its varieties to minimize the effects of lodging. और ये benefits क्या है काला नमक राइस का? So we could see that these are highly resistant to notorious rice diseases like penicillin blast, stem rot, and brown spot that causes huge crop losses for the farmers. Okay, and this bacterial blight is also rarely observed in this rice variety. Bacteria यहाँ पे बहुत कम produce होता है. यहाँ पे low input cost लगता है, labor cost भी कम होता है, and this can be grown without chemical fertilizers and pesticides, क्योंकि यहाँ पे जो pest attack है वो बहुत कम रहता है. ठीक है. So even during the time of the drought, okay, यहाँ पे इसको पानी भी कम लगता है. जनरली हम लोग जानते हैं कि राइस और ये जो wheat है ये क्या है? ये बेसिकली these are water intensive crops. तो even if I see about that it was even observed that in 2001 और 2003 के द्वारा जब हम लोग का drought हुआ था in this Sarai region, so the kala namak rice is very much left unaffected. तो इसीलिए इसका बहुत सारा गुण है. तो हम लोग कैसे इसको मास स्केल में ये हम लोग प्रोड्यूस कर सकते हैं, तो दिस कैन बी सीन इन द कमिंग डेज. ठीक है, देखते हैं नेक्स्ट पे. So a new target to combat AMR salmonella. So today we know about that the category of salmonella, okay, which is very much rapid and unselective use of traditional antibiotics, gave rise to emergence of drug resistance phenotype, which is basically typhoidal, and even you can see about the non-typhoidal serovirus. Okay, so which has increased the difficulties in curing the salmonella induced foodborne illness. तो ये फूडबॉर्न इलनेस क्या होता है? मेजरली टाइफॉइड और पैराथायरॉइड फीवर, गैस्ट्रोएंटाइटिस, डायरिया, ये सब होता है. So now what is the salmonella? So the salmonella is directly a group of bacteria that can cause foodborne illness that is known as salmonellosis. Okay, और ये salmonella typhimurium क्या है? तो फिर salmonella typhimurium, that is ST313, it is an invasive typhoidal salmonella cereber that causes the bloodstream infection in the malnourished and the population of the sub-Saharan Africa. So अभी यहाँ पे हम लोग का recent studies के द्वारा देखा गया है कि the emergence of this multi-drug resistance phenotype in Salmonella typhimurium, which causes infections in humans and cattle. So now the increased resistance to antibiotics is a very bad thing. So यहाँ पे आज मल्टी ड्रग रेजिस्टेंस का यहाँ पे हम लोग को पिक्चर देखने को मिलता है. Okay, so here we have to see about that recent studies even say about that there are many number of cases which is going for extensive drug resistance, that is the antibiotic resistance. Okay, so today just to make control about this AMR salmonella, okay, so यहाँ पे ये जो recent studies है that cause infections in humans and cattle, okay, तो यहाँ पे इसको combat करने के लिए एक neutralized drug resistant salmonella निकाला गया है. ठीक है, and that is very relevant today if you see today the population which is having such number of activities. तो यहाँ पे देख सकते हो how this antibiotic exposure can lead to resisting cells multiplying. Okay, so even the things that is known as the salmonella ferium, so it plays an essential role in the survival of the bacteria in the presence of antibiotics. तो ये कैसे हम लोग remove करें, कैसे through conjugation, कैसे through some of the tactics we have to amplify such number of disease resistance antibiotics, ये हम लोग को देखना पड़ेगा. Okay, so this was the basic small news about the Salmonella typhi. Okay, next में आते हैं. Editorial lastly saying about the extra constitutional decisions of the Raj Bhavan. Okay, तो यहाँ पे ये news में क्यों है? See, recently a tweet that was put by the Kerala governor saying that the statements of individual ministers that lowers the dignity of the office of the governor can invite action including withdrawal of pleasure. तो आज अगर मैं यहाँ पे बोलूं about some of the important articles regarding the issue. See, the first article of article 164 that says about the state executive, यहाँ पे क्या बोलता है? That the constitution says the chief minister shall be appointed by the governor and the minister shall hold the office during the pleasure of the governor. एक और आर्टिकल है जो मैं बोलना चाहता हूं यहाँ पे, आर्टिकल 163 क्लॉज 1. So there shall be a council of ministers with the chief minister as the head to aid and advise the governor in the exercise of his functions. और एक आता है आर्टिकल 163 क्लॉज 2. It says that the governor can act at his discretion in certain matters as permitted by the constitution. So now if I see about the constitutional facets, so the function of the appointed governor is always subject to the policies of the elected governor and not vice versa. So this is the foundational theory of the India's constitutional democracy. Now if I see about the constitutional provisions which cannot be read in isolation, and the governor is generally bound by the cabinet decision except when he has a legitimate right to invoke his discretion under 163 clause 2, जहां पे मैंने बोला था कि the governor can act in his discretion in certain matters as permitted by the constitution. और यहाँ पे बहुत सारे केसेस में, यहाँ पे मैं अगर बोलूं एक केस that is came around in 1974, शमशेर सिंह versus state of Punjab. Okay, so in this case, for comparison, the Supreme Court extracted Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's introductory statement that was made in 1948. And he said about that the President of the United States is not bound to accept any advice tendered to him by any of his secretaries. So the President of the Indian Union will be generally bound by the advice of his ministers, and he can do nothing contrarily to the advice, nor can he do anything without their advice. So the President of the Union has no power to do so as long as the ministers command a majority in the parliament. So the same principles apply to the governors as well, since the union ministers also hold office during the pleasure of the president under Article 75 Clause 2. So withdrawal of the pleasure without advice from the Council of Ministers as indicated by the office of the governor is a misconception. So now यहाँ पे जो ये concern है about the growing role of the governor, यहाँ पे जो issues है extra constitutional delusions है आज राजभवन का, see यहाँ पे conclusion में हम लोग एक बात ही देख सकते हैं कि see the governors of the states are expected to defend the constitution and should use their power to caution some of the elected regimes against violating the constitution. But this does not mean that they can use the discretionary space given to them to function as a parallel power center. So nowadays, governors should act in a non-partisan way while fulfilling their constitutional duties, and even the parliament should consider the recommendation of various commissions to reform the office of the governor further for a better and a healthy democracy. So without this reformation, we cannot see the development of Indian democracy towards a better command, towards a better wing, and obviously being a healthier democracy. तो यहाँ पे जो इश्यूज चल रहे हैं, तो ये इश्यूज को हम लोग जल्द ही अगर एक पार्लियामेंट एक इश्यूज लेके चले जाते हैं, पार्लियामेंट एक एक्ट लेके एक प्रॉपर लेजिस्लेशन लेके एक गवर्नर का पावर का डेफिनेशन फिर से कर दे, then we can see that this conflict between the governors as well as the state government would solve at a very faster rate. ठीक है, तो ये था about the analysis of this editorial. Okay, so lastly we have got this MCQs. Please do attempt these MCQs. The answers you will get in tomorrow's PDF. Also do join our WhatsApp as well as Telegram channel for further updates. We will have one mains question. Please attempt it and send to us via email as well as in our Telegram as WhatsApp group. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you and Jai Hind.